Supremacy Games. Chapter 41 The True Horror of Awakening. What do you mean by temptation? I don't think the elders and our parents would approve of such a thing. Olivia shook her head firmly with closed eyes. She didn't want to look at his devilish mouth, spewing such terrifying lies to her face. Felix lifted her chin gently and gazed at her at tight shut eyes and pressed lips. Little Oli, do you honestly believe that the family would care about our lives when their longevity and authority is threatened? He chuckled mockingly and said, don't be so naive. Even if only one of us managed to survive the process of awakening, it is a win in their eyes, since it means that they still have a chance to obtain some items that may extend their lives. He sighed and pulled away from her. Don't hate them for it, neither disdain them. It is a simple trade between us. They gave us bloodlines, resources, training opportunities, and everything we need to awaken. So, we won't forget them after we gain power. Indeed, the family was doing all of this not out of the goodness of their heart, rather to obtain backing from their awakened juniors during upcoming authority struggles. This current era was controlled not by weapons or diplomacy, but simply the number of awakening individuals a country or a family had. The elders would be damned if they left this race for authority, just so they could protect useless juniors who had no real power in this new era. That's why the World Council downplayed the painful process of awakening by releasing only the good parts of it. As for the dangers in the actual process, they didn't mention it much in their streams. The families, companies, governments, associations, and more backgrounds were all in this together. They knew that youngsters, no matter how rash they were in making decisions, they still wouldn't dare to awaken if its dangers were released publicly. The leaders wanted them to underestimate it and go for it no matter what. If not else, who would pave the road ahead in this new era? Felix chuckled and approached Olivia, who had her palms in her ears while muttering in denial. You are a liar. I'm not listening to your lies. My parents won't allow it. Tell me the most painful physical experience you went through to this point. He asked her after seeing that she wasn't going to hear any more of his explanations. Yet, Olivia didn't respond. She just pretended that she didn't hear a thing. Vexed, Felix removed her hands from covering her ears and repeated his question again with a firmer tone. This time Olivia couldn't pretend anymore. She fiddled with the corner of her outfit and answered. It was when I was 12 years old. I fell from the stairs of my parents' mansion. I broke 2 ribs and 1 arm. Oh yes, I do remember that I visited you in the hospital many times to show my concern. Nostalgic. He chuckled as he remembered those peaceful days. But each time you visited, you kept drawing on my arms, cast funny faces, and calling me mummy after seeing me in bandages. Olivia pouted with her hands crossed. Stop jesting, little Oli. You must have mistaken me for Kenny. Before she could bicker back with him, he poked her forehead and said, now tell me, Oli, if that was the greatest pain you felt in your life, how are you supposed to handle an agony that strikes the fiber of your being? Trying to change your very own cells to something different in a period that lasts more than 30 minutes. Please enlighten me. He hoped that everything he just said might break her illusion and bring some sense in her mind that awakening was not something to be taken lightly of. Only when one really braced himself for death could he start the process with a focused mind, have a decent chance of passing it. Agitated, Olivia could only turn her head away from his questioning gaze. I don't know, okay, if everything that you said was right. It only meant that I am not ready for awakening, and probably never will. So I really don't know what to do anymore. She covered her eyes as she sobbed. She couldn't handle it anymore. Felix was shattering all her dreams for a bright future, where she was a strong awakened, controlling her own fate, and resisting everyone's bullying. However, now she could only cry her eyes out, after realizing that she would stay the same as always, weak and protected by others, something she hated since young, as no matter how much she had grown, everyone sees her as a little child, either to bully and tease or to protect and please. Felix brought her to his embrace and patted her back gently to comfort her. Don't worry about it, Oli. I just wanted you to treat awakening seriously, not block you from it. He smiled and said, I can help you lower the pain period by only 20%. You just have to promise me that you will work hard during the upcoming pain tolerance drills, so you can be as prepared as possible. Olivia lifted her small head and stared at Felix with her damp blue eyes, quivering eyelashes like a hurt bunny. Really, you can do that? He shrugged his shoulders and explained, unaffected by her cute appearance. Indeed, not just me. I believe the family will try their best to do the same, but they won't be able to lower the pain period to 20%. but probably just 75%. That's not so bad, as at least some of our cousins will survive. His dull reply was a clear display that he was unbothered about their certain death. He only cared about 2 of his cousins. One was Olivia, his childhood friend, in his point of view. The other was Noah, whose character was admirable. As for others, they could burn in hell and he wouldn't mind. She broke off from his hug and wiped her tears with her sleeves. Why don't you share your method to the family? Isn't it better if everyone had higher chances to succeed? Because our methods are the same. He clicked on his bracelet, and a hologram of a small glass bottle filled with thick blue liquid revolved in front of Olivia. This is what we will use. A potion called Pain Relief. The only difference is the number of potions used. He explained that each potion could lower the pain duration by 20%, but after drinking 4 continuously, her body would build immunity to its effect, thus forcing the duration to freeze at 20%. Those potions were extremely important for each awakener. One must at least drink minimum 2 potions before risking it. However, the family was not rich enough to afford 2 potions for each junior. Heck, they couldn't afford to get even 1 for each junior. This meant those who risked awakening in that condition, death was certain unless a miracle happened. I understand, but why would you go that far for me? Is it really as my cousin said you like me? She avoided having eye contact with him as she stammered her question. Amused at her conclusion, he flicked her forehead and patted her head like a child. Get some common sense, little Oli. If I had feelings towards you, would I bully and tease you each time I meet you until you avoided me at all costs? He turned around and walked towards the bathroom door, leaving his real reason why he went through all of this. I see you as a childhood friend who played with me and tolerated my tantrums during the death of my family. I am only doing this to repay you for the past, and also not to see your corpse covered in your own pool of blood and sweat, he thought. Olivia rubbed her red forehead and stomped her leg in irritation after being treated like a kid again. I will show you all that I am 17 years old just like you, and make you treat me with respect. Just you wait. She cleaned her face with water and followed after Felix. Yet, the moment she emerged from the door, she saw everyone looking at her damp eyes and red face from crying and embarrassment. Things that water couldn't clean. What a beast, he really did it. I can't believe my cute Olivia was defiled by that thug. I swear I will revenge you, Olivia. Just wait after I awaken. Olivia tilted her petite oval head in confusion at their looks. What's with their pained expression? Did they get all food poisoned or what? I wish you get well soon. She nodded at them and walked towards the treadmill near Felix and started jogging. Everyone's already messy thoughts got even messier at this flabbergasting sight. Never in their wildest dreams would they have expected Olivia, the #1 Felix's prey, to approach him by her own will. What the hell? Why did she practice near Felix when there are over 20 treadmills empty? No, my little Olivia, don't join his side. Even if he took your first time, you should never obey him. Why do I feel like this training camp is not going to be peaceful? Interesting, Olivia is the last one I expected to befriend him. Truly interesting, Kenny mused, while his real face had a wide, gentle smile on it, as he did squats. Noah, why are you training next to me? Are you not afraid of rumors? You do realize that we were in the bathroom alone for over 15 minutes, and by doing this you just made it worse for you. Confused just like the rest, Felix asked her. He knew that her real personality was quite shy and gets easily affected by rumors. So, for her to be this bold was truly a sight to behold. Olivia bared her little fangs at him and others. You can all mind your business and stop caring about what I do and what I say. I am 17 years old just like everyone here. I am not a child to fear others' opinions on me. They can say what they want, I don't care. Felix chuckled at her cute angry tantrum and said, all right, little adult. Whatever you say. She humped and focused on her practice, not wanting to bicker with him anymore. Chapter 42 Boss Olivia. Time slowly passed by, as Felix and Olivia were almost about to finish their 5 kilometers exercise. Felix trained with utmost focus, looking only straight ahead. Meanwhile, Olivia kept stealing quick glances at him. If that was only it, Felix wouldn't be bothered. But every time she peeked at him, she opened her mouth trying to say something. However, in the end, she closed it shut and continued to run in silence. Annoyed yet somewhat piqued, he removed his AirPods and asked, out with it. What do you want to say? Olivia stumbled on the treadmill, almost falling flat on her face after being found out. He chuckled at this sight, making her cheeks flush red. Thank you, Felix, I appreciate your promise. She avoided eye contact with him as she shyly buried her head downward. Don't mention it anymore. He waved his hand casually and wore his AirPods back on, focusing on the last 500 meters left. Olivia smiled and stopped peeking at him. 4 minutes later, Felix cleaned his body from sweat while drinking a small bottle of water. After finishing at half of it, he closed the lid and walked on the treadmill while stretching his shoulders, preparing for the next exercise. After a while, Olivia finished as well. She turned off the treadmill and stood on the gym floor with her hands on her knees, breathing ruggedly. It was not just her, but almost everyone was either training hard while breathing roughly with sweaty armpits and back, or lying on the ground unmoving. If it was not for their chest that was rising and falling periodically, the rest would have assumed they had died. A clear contrast to Felix, who dropped into the floor after few minutes break and began doing his required 50 push-ups without making a sound. For Felix, who spent 6 months in the island training in the gym each day, this was merely a warm-up. However, for those juniors who probably never wore their training outfit since the moment they began their mission, this was pure hell. The family took into consideration their body's long inactivity and lowered the fitness training to the bare minimum. This helped Felix breeze through it with ease. His cousins just gazed in his direction with envious looks, wishing to trade their trashy stamina that couldn't even let them finish 20 push-ups properly with his. Olivia stood next to him, staring in wonder at his endless stamina. She couldn't help but ask with admiration, "Felix, how did manage to build such good endurance? I have been training 2 times a week to keep myself always in shape, but my endurance did not improve much. I always get easily tired." Felix froze with his hands extended straight and stared at her with a serious expression. Olivia gulped at his solemn look, expecting to hear his secret. Eager, her ears wiggled slightly. Too bad she forgot she was dealing with Felix. "Isn't obvious. How could you have the same vigor as I, with your tiny lungs? You probably have difficulty even breathing normally." Furious at being played like this, Olivia stomped his head with her leg, while huffing, "You promised you will stop bullying me. This is your punishment for lying." Felix didn't even get a chance to feel smug about his prank before his face got planted on the gym floor. What the fuck? Did she really change that much to actually retaliate and dare beat me up? It seems that little Oli is serious in showcasing to everyone that she is not an easy target. Well, might as well assist her. He grinned cunningly, unnoticed by anyone. "Oh, my face, you broke my nose, Olivia. How can you be this brutal? I was just teasing you like always." Felix cried out loud pitifully while covering his nose with both of his hands. He sent a wink at the dumbfounded Olivia, who thought her leg strength couldn't even harm a fly. Don't even mention breaking someone's nose. Thrilled and excited at this turn of events, the juniors gloated at Felix, who was whining on the floor. They never thought that Olivia, the sweetest flower in the family, to actually hit someone. But goddamn, if it didn't feel good to see that devil on the ground like that. Good job, Olivia. Always hit him back if he bullies you. That's right. You don't have to fear him, as he won't dare to hit you, or else Elder Robert will cut his balls. I never thought I would see her hit someone in my life, honestly. Same, she always got protected by seniors or us when she got bullied. That's why, I guess. Let's cheer for her, so she won't forget this moment. Noah. The cousins were not cheap in their cheers and applause, as they kept chanting her name with genuine smiles. Olivia was the only cousin who had a friendly relationship with everyone. Her social influence was quite high, to the point if she made a request, no one would say no to her face. Yet, she had no idea about any of this, as she never requested anything in her life. That's why she was quite shy about thanking Felix for his promise. She was not used to such a thing. Dumbstruck, Olivia stood with parted lips and wide eyes at this sight. She didn't understand how her unconscious stomp would turn things this way. She peeked at Felix, the propagator of this entire charade, and saw that he was scratching his nose with a finger. Felix gave her thumbs up to encourage her after noticing her peeking at him. Olivia felt her heart warm up at this sight. She figured out easily that Felix was trying to help her build an adult image, just like she always wanted but never could. She had no idea how to do so properly. It's not like she could point her finger at someone and order him to treat her like an adult. If she went forward and did that with her short height and cute face, her image would instantly get fixed as being childish forever. So, she really appreciated this opportunity and decided to play along with Felix. Assertive, she puffed out her chest. She had one in her point of view, and placed her little feet on Felix's back like a champion. "I will not let you or anyone else to bully or tease me like a child. If anyone did so, I don't mind breaking his nose as well." "Understood." Afraid and respectful, Felix replied loud and clear, Yes, big sister Olivia, I will not bully you anymore. It would be fine and dandy if he wasn't making funny faces in the process. Add Olivia to make her laugh and break out of character. Olivia tried her best to hold her laughter while looking at his retarded face. Good, this is the last time. Now scram to your room, she ordered with a forced rigid face. Felix understood her cue and escaped towards the elevator while holding his nose. The moment he left the gym, the juniors broke into loud cheers after Olivia exiled the devil who traumatized them. They grouped around Olivia and lifted her small body, throwing her in the air like a bag of potato chips. Felix was currently in his room finishing the leftover push-ups. I hope that was enough to head start her image reform. Otherwise, when she visits the UVR, she will be bullied to death. After finishing the last push-up, he took his phone and called his grandfather. What do you want, rascal? I will finish the training exercises in my room since I was kicked out by Boss Olivia. Felix chuckled. Haha, Boss Olivia. If she heard you say it, she won't be able to sleep tonight properly. Go ahead. You can do them in your room every day, but use the treadmill for running. Fuck. Got to go. Olivia just vomited over everyone's head after being thrown in the air like a plaything. He immediately hanged up and announced through his microphone, "You rascals, go clean yourself up and start training properly." And someone takes Olivia to the nursing room. She does not look all right. Now move. Felix held his waist as he laughed out loud. He couldn't help but do so after imagining Olivia vomiting her breakfast from the sky on everyone's heads, like rain from above. Now they will truly fear you, little Oli. Half an hour later, Felix lay on the bed with turned on a laptop on his stomach, wearing cozy pajamas. He already finished all of his exercises and showered properly. Without further ado, he clicked on the email the family sent, planning to check on the merit system in its shop. In his previous life, he could only watch those resources pass by him, without being able to hold them. All of the points he collected were used to secure 2 pain relief potions. It was not like he was richer than other juniors. Rather, they focused on other resources, ignoring those potions, as they had no idea how important shaving 20% duration off their awakening. They were too consumed with other cool-looking items and substances. Felix himself wanted to buy them as well, but each time he tried to so, he ended finding out of stock written on the shop, so he could only use his points for those 2 potions. Thank God for that. After clicking the family email, he ignored the merit system explanation and scrolled down until he saw a link to a website. Felix clicked on it and was transferred into a new tab. The connection was quite fast, as the page loaded instantly, displaying a shop with items, each with their price tag on, and the number of quantity on its stock. Good, nothing has changed. The prices are still the same. He kept scrolling down the item list while nodding his head from time to time at their cheap prices. Hell, pain relief potion was being sold outside for 10,000 South Carolina, while here Felix could obtain it by trading 10,000 merits. A 2-week of training without missing a single exercise. But those were not his aim. He would leave them to his cousins to use. What he really wanted were the elemental stones, so he could start working on increasing his poison affinity to peak ASAP. It's time to put that lazy bum to work. Otherwise, she will feel too comfortable in my consciousness. Vexed, he rubbed his temples, expecting a headache at the thought of Asna, that freeloader who only wants to do the minimum possible effort to help him in his path. Chapter 43: The Wishing System. Just forget it, I will call for her when I awaken. Felix understood clearly that even if he bought the stones now, he wouldn't be able to use them without having at least 1% beast bloodline merged with him, since humans couldn't absorb the elements from stones like beasts. Therefore, the only thing he should do was to hoard as much of them as possible, until the day he awakens. He planned to only rely on merits to do so. As for him upcoming 80 million South Carolina, that was for buying the highest bloodline tier possible, plus the resources needed for his integration. Helpless and dejected, he sighed over his miserable fate of living as poor pauper, no matter how much he earned. But it was his decision to only buy the best for his future bloodline path. No one forced him to do so. He stopped mulling about those negative ideas and pressed on Elemental STONES button, planning to check the price of poison stones. Fire stone, low grade, 100 MP. Lightning stone, low grade, 100 MP. Ice stone, low grade, 200 MP. Poison stone, low grade, 200 MP. Shadow stone, low grade, 200 MP. A long list having tens of elemental stones with their merit prices. was displayed before Felix. As seen from the list, the prices between common grade elements and uncommon were double the amount. This should highlight the fact that elemental stones' prices were proportionate to their difficulty in finding them. After checking the poison stone price, he turned off the laptop and glanced at his bracelet. 2 hours left. Whatever, it's better to arrive early. Felix put the laptop next to him and lay on the bed comfortably. He then called in his Mind Queen AI. 10 seconds later he was back, at the same place and position in the UVR. He started to lick the ice cream he had before he logged out with enjoyment. I forgot I had this. What a bonus. He stood up and called for a cab, planning to head towards the SG Company branch, which handled all the ticket prices in the kingdom. 10 minutes later, he bypassed the queue that stretched to infinity by paying 500 South Carolina and entered the hexagon-shaped building that was surrendered by 10 towers standing upright, towering over the rest of the structures in the city. Those towers each designed with a unique form that represents the architecture of 10 different races. The majority of commoners believed that those races were the strongest ones within the alliance. Felix went straight to the counter and gave the game number ID to the employee, who took it gladly and scanned it. Sir, based on the game ID, you want to watch live the 500-player battle royal. May I ask which ticket you want to buy? Is it normal, important, VIP, VIP ticket? Give me a normal ticket. The counter employee, who thought he was dealing with an important person after seeing him pay to bypass the queue, instantly cringed. Yes, sir, that will cost 2,000 CS. Since this is a battle royal at the weekend, and the tickets are being snatched each minute, the cost can only double to slow it down. Felix did not replay. He just placed his bracelet in the scanner, transferring the payment. After seeing the payment was successful, the employee handed him a digital ticket without nonsense. Felix scanned the ticket with his bracelet and threw it in the garbage can. He didn't worry about others using it, as the seat's unique number ID had been registered in his bracelet. 1 hour and a half later, Felix was wearing a red finger in his hand, 2 beer cans glued to a cap placed on his head, with 2 white tubes dangling near his mouth. Solid wall. Fuck them up for this, daddy. He cheered with his hands raised in the air like a fanboy, just like the millions of fans seating in a huge arena placed in the air above a battleground. Plus, to enhance the audience's visibility even further, the arena seating chairs were stacked near each other, shaping an enormous circle, without neither walls nor floor underneath, to block their vision of what was happening inside the battleground. Since they were in midair, anyone who was not able to see details properly could either use the large screen, which was hanged above them, showing each player with the highest quality possible, or they could spend some coins and purchase vision and hearing enhancement mechanisms that allow anyone to zoom in, just like a camera, thus not missing any amazing fight scenes or dramatic speeches during them. Ladies and gentlemen, I, Titus, your host and MC for the evening, will accompany you through this wild game that will have only one player alive from 500, so make some noise to support your fighter. The MC Titus shouted in his microphone as he made an epic entrance of falling from the sky until he slammed into the ground next to the players. The entire arena rumbled as each spectator had their mouths between their hands, yelling different names of players. Some of them were their lovers, husbands, disciplines, sons or daughters, or simply just a player they placed their bet on, like Felix. This was how the individual supremacy games were like. Everyone was representing himself, not his planet, clan, company, or race. Good. Now, just like always, the first 30 minutes before each game is for interviews to see what our lovely participants have to say and what are their goals and wishes. The MC Titus pointed his golden microphone in direction of the players. This was the main reason why he bothered to fall from his commentary platform near them in the first place. Enthusiastic, he approached an eerie thin man with 4 long fangs protruding out of his mouth. He placed his microphone in his face and asked, "You good sir? What made you decide to participate in this savage 1 versus 500 games, knowingly that you might not see tomorrow?" With a hint of lounging in his eyes, the eerie man caught the microphone and said, "I wish to obtain a legendary Tier 3 Bloodline, and only games that have a large number of players, and provide this wish for me after I win." Good. I see that you are peak stage 1 Bloodliner. You probably were waiting for this opportunity to win the best ranked Bloodline in Tier 3. What a marvelous courage and bravery. I wish you good luck emerging victorious. The MC patted his shoulder with encouragement and moved on to his next prey. In his eyes, it was like a free real estate, with those 500 players spread all around him. Soon, a golden mic was shoved in the face of a beautiful lady with a small rainbow-colored peacock tail. "What about you, gorgeous? What do you desire after you win? I want to rejoin the Rainbow Peacock clan, and to do so, I need to win this and ask my wish to be fulfilled as a winning a prize. Your wish shall be granted if you win. This is an undeniable truth in the SGA, and the clan won't dare refuse and go against the rules of the alliance. So concentrate only on emerging as the last surviving player in the game. The MC spoke with unadulterated certainty. He was not afraid that his words would bite him in the ass later. Nervous yet excited, the players around them couldn't help but clench their fists tightly, remembering the reason and the wish they seek after emerging as a champion. It might sound nice and dandy, but those wishes were limited to the Bloodliner stage. The SGA wouldn't leave such a loophole in the open, where players asking for Tier 5 Bloodline or some expensive resources, which they couldn't even use with their current strength. A player could only ask what he truly really needs. Just like the Eerie Four Fang players, he was a peak Stage 1 Bloodliner, but he wished for legendary Tier 3 Beast. The Alliance would fulfill his wish even though the prize outranked him, since he truly was planning to use it to break through the next stage. But the main reason the Alliance would fulfill his wish in the first place was because this game prize pool had it, as each game type had a set of prizes pool that no one could go above, such as, this game mode was 500-player Battle Royale, a game where only death or emerging as the last survivor was allowed. Nothing more or nothing less. This meant the danger and risk level were vastly different than other game modes, where a player could just simply lose and try again in a different game. Thus the prize pool had even legendary rank Bloodline, something that could only be bought in auctions with outrageous prices. This way, a rewarding system was created that hoped to fulfill everyone's desires and requests, as long as they were within the reach of the player and the limits of the prize pool. Otherwise, the Alliance had the right to refuse it and ask for another one. If a player didn't understand his place and kept asking for things he couldn't use, the Alliance wouldn't hesitate to blacklist him for eternity. This was why no one dared to ask for outrageous things anymore, as being blacklisted from the games where you could fulfill your wishes was a fate worse than death, especially for the commoners Bloodliners. Chapter 44 500-Player Battle Royale. Soon, the half-hour designed for interviews had passed swiftly, as the MC interviewed as many players as the duration allowed him to. Alright ladies and gentlemen, only 30 seconds is left before the game officially begins. I ask all of you to count down with me after we reach 10 seconds. Passionate, the MC bent backward with the microphone held close to his lips. Saliva and spit stained the golden mic. Yet, he didn't care about his image, neither did the audience. They simply lifted their heads and paid attention to the countdown on the large screen. This countdown process was one of their favorite segments in the games, as it made them feel like they were part of the game. It wasn't long before the countdown hit 10 seconds. Immediately after, the quiet arena roared, resembling a beast waking up from its slumber. The crowd counted backward, creating an unswerving harmony. 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1, start. The MC spread his arms wide as he floated rapidly towards his platform. Meanwhile, the players were teleported randomly in a massive battleground that had the same size as Earthling's Hawaii Island. The map was extremely diverse when it came to the environment, as there were deserts, jungles, lakes, rivers, mountains, volcanoes, and even nighttime. It was created as such to support each player element, since if the entire map was based on a jungle, all plant, earth, wood, and nature elementalists were going to have a blast in comparison to the rest. The MC Titus rested a hand on his chin as he watched in concentration more than 500 small invisible holograms, showcasing each player. His eyes drifted rapidly from one screen to another without a single blink in between. Such a difficult task was being handled easily by him. For one to apply to an MC job in the SG, he had to have at minimum this unique multitask talent. Otherwise, the application wouldn't even be received properly. Delighted, his eyes brightened up as he noticed a battle was about to begin. We got our first battle, my dear audience. Let us watch it together. He slid the small screen to the left using his index finger. Simultaneously, the large screen displayed the battle he just mentioned. Felix didn't bother to lift his head and glance at the heated ongoing battle between three players. He simply kept his eyes fixed on Solid Wall, who was currently running towards the very edge of the map, something only idiots would do since this game mode was using a firestorm to push the players near the middle of the map. Regardless, Solid Wall didn't show a hint of insanity as he kept running towards his doom. His face was rough like a rock with dead ash-gray eyes, which seemed lifeless. Yet, nothing could hide that glint of light within. flicking like a candle that was about to extinguish. Elated, Felix grinned and clapped his hands at this sight. He knew that his bet was secured. He couldn't help but grin foolishly at the incoming 80 million South Carolina. "Go Wally, this is yours to win." The spectators around him merely gave him a side glance and ignored him. They had their own players to cheer. 20 minutes passed by, as the players kept dying like flies. Every battle ended up with only 2 results. A player either survives the battle, or everyone dies. There was absolutely no mercy, as players couldn't afford to have it in this game mode. So far, more than 90 players were turned into corpses, here and in real life as well. Yet, this staggering amount was before the map even forced them to gather in the middle. However, that didn't last for long, as a noisy sound went off abruptly on the battleground. It resembled an air raid alarm. Tiring. The MC and the audience knew exactly what that sound meant, as they were staring live at the giant firestorm, shrinking in a wide circle around the edges of the island. Its speed was quite slow though, as even a commoner could outrun it. But that was understandable, since the entire reason for its existence was to pressure the players to fight, not to flat out kill them. If it wasn't for this, Solid Wall wouldn't even have the thought of implementing his plan. The MC jerked his head in direction of the players near the edges, who were running for their lives away from the storm. He clicked his tongue at their plan of avoiding fights as much as possible, by hiding near the edges, only moving when the storm forced them to. Fucking donkeys. His scornful eyes soon were replaced with joy. After seeing an ongoing battle in the middle of an escapade, he focused the camera on it and ignored the edges, which were getting empty each second. Am I really going to do this? And even if I succeed by some miracle, would the SGA allow such a win? Wally wasn't able to sustain his expressionless face for long, as now, he was biting his nails with nervousness and a hint of dread written all over his face. Who could blame him though? He was planning to stay within the firestorm until he gets declared as the last survivor. If he told anyone of his plan, they would piss their pants from laughter. Survive until declared as champion. What kind of sick joke was this? Don't even mention surviving for hours within the storm. Just 10 seconds, and everyone would kneel and worship. But Solid Wall wasn't trying to do this by relying only on bravery and courage. He didn't lack common sense. He understood thoroughly that only his epic Tier 2 Galapagos tortoise bloodline was able to provide him a chance to implement his plan. However, that was the only thing it would provide him, a chance. As for the hellish agony of his body getting burned to crisp, and then recovered to peak, using the passive ability Fast Rejuvenation, would be felt continuously until he either dies or the game ends. The only one who understood Wally's upcoming agony was Felix himself, as his ass was blasted to flames by Asna's shameless technique before. The only difference was that Felix felt burnt in one place, while Wally was going to feel it through his entire body. Not a single part would survive the firestorm attacks. From his brain to his balls, everything was on the path of getting frayed, then recovered to get frayed yet again. I think it is better to just fight like everyone else. At least if I won, no one will say anything. Wally's breaths quickened as he stood up, planning to step away from the storm. He couldn't help but have second thoughts on his plan. No one would blame him. Neither would hate him for it, except for one, of course. Scared shitless at this horrifying sight, Felix spewed the beer that he was drinking in celebration all over the faces of those in front of him. Yet, he didn't care. Neither bothered to explain himself. He simply pointed at the storm behind Wally with bloodshot eyes. "What the fuck are you doing, Wally? Get back and finish your plan. You will screw me over, I tell you." The spectators didn't even complain about their faces getting dirtied by the beer. They simply distanced themselves from this madman, not wanting anything to do with him. While Felix was having suicidal thoughts after realizing that he was on the verge of losing 8 million South Carolina, Solid Wall walked forward step by step with thoughts messing up his mind. He wanted to speed up and run away from the storm that was merely tens of meters behind him, but his legs weren't responding. Soon he gave up, accepting his destiny, and sat back with a determined expression and eyes gleaming with lounging. "For myself, for my family. I have to win this game no matter what. Pain is only momentary, but my mother's smile is everlasting." That was the last thought he had before he got engulfed by the storm. No one saw what happened or bothered looking at his direction. The tens of battles happening around the map captured their attention. No one was bored enough to waste his expensive ticket and search for someone who was within the storm. The only person who was watching the birth of a legend was Felix, who was clapping his hands with a genuine smile and clear admiration on his eyes. Shivers always accompanied him, no matter how many times he watched the replay of Wally getting embraced by the storm in his previous life. Now, those shivers of admiration and fascination hit on another level after seeing it live. The firestorm kept shrinking the circle every 20 minutes, forcing the players to create alliances and partnerships to protect themselves within a group. It was always better to move in a herd, yet those alliances didn't even last for long before they got broken by a member's sudden betrayal. The spectators, whether watching live or on stream, cheered at those dramatic betrayals. There was nothing more enjoyable than seeing two partners going through life and death situations, but in the end, betray each other for the championship. Regardless of what was happening in the middle of the map, no one gave a crap about a small corner within the storm, where a man sat on the ground, clenching his jaw in anguish. Only Felix kept his eyes on him. 2 hours later, the game reached its climax, as only 2 players were left in a small-sized ring, with nowhere to retreat, or elemental energy to go all out. Levi, just give up. You can't win against me no matter what you do. A man with one arm and bloodied face gave a smug smile towards another man with an even worse injury than him. In his eyes, he already won the battle. Cough, if there was a way to give up, there won't be 40 bodies laid around us right now, Joshua. With a hand clutched on his chest, Levi tried his best to put pressure on the glaring hole near his heart. However, the blood kept streaming down his chest unhindered. He took a deep breath and lifted a rock in his hand. Yet, even the act itself caused him to wince in pain, but he could only suck it up and grip the rock even tighter. This was it. There was only one path forward, and that was to smash that smug smile off Joshua. This is for Miss Mercy. He dashed forward, uncaring about the scornful look he was receiving. Look at you. Can't even use one ability, and still want to fight. What a joke, just die already. Joshua snickered and pointed his finger that was half broken at Levi, and said softly, wine string dot. A small tornado appeared on his finger, and swiftly started to revolve and condense, until it turned into string that was long and sharp, vibrating each time the broken finger trembled. Goodbye, Levi. It was a good partnership between us. Levi dropped the rock on the ground and stood with a horrified expression. Impossible. Your left arm was cleaved because you did not have any energy left to defend. His brain was pierced from the wine string, leaving a small bullet hole in his forehead. The poor lad didn't even manage to finish saying his final words. Exhilarated, Joshua clutched his hand into a fist and raised it above his head in celebration. Finally, my wish can come true and have my revenge. How long have I waited for this day? Tears mixed with blood streaked on his cheeks and down his chin. I feel sorry for ruining your bright future, Joshua, but it is time to send you off. A chilling whisper penetrated Joshua's soul. Yet, before he could even comprehend what happened, he saw his vision rolling in the sky. Thud. The sound of his cleaved head landing on the ground resounded in the area. Joshua's eyes landed on the previous penetrated body of Levi that was drifting in the air as it broke off into tiny sand particles. Sand element active ability sand mimicry. You were a dual elementalist all along with Levi. Well played. Well played. That was that last thought that coursed through his brain. Exhausted, Levi collapsed into the ground. Thank God I listened to my master advice and refrained from using sand mimicry until the last moment. If not, I would have been dead by now. He sighed in relief and suddenly gave a warm smile as he glimpsed at the blue ring on his hand. Master, I can finally get you a life extension substance that can add at least 2,000 years. It should be enough time until you find a healing fairy to treat you fully from your hidden injuries. Unfortunately, his daydream was shattered as an alarm resonated through the whole battleground faithfully. Tiring. The firestorm was moving again. Chapter 45. A champion is born. Dumbfounded and confused, the MC and the spectators stared wide-eyed at the shrinking storm. They were just celebrating and chanting Levi's name over securing the championship with a marvelous play. Yet, that alarm tied their tongues, leaving them stunned, not knowing what to do anymore. Their confusion was understandable, as battle royals were supposed to end immediately after one player emerges as the last survivor. Yet, this was exactly the case. But the storm didn't stop its activities. Why the hell is it still active? Our champion is about to get killed. Muddled and mortified about the entire situation, the MC Titus felt his heart sink at the thought of having a battle royal without a winner. If it happened, the game would turn into the greatest joke in the SG, and as its MC and judge, this humiliation would accompany him through his entire life and afterlife. He understood clearly that his career was currently hanging on a thin line. He must find the anomaly which was causing this fucked up situation to save it. Without delaying any further, he put his entire focus on the 500 small screens. His eyes darted from one to another, examining the corpses of the players thoroughly before moving to the next. He already had some theories on his mind. He believed that a player was using fake death passive in those bodies around Levi. This must be it. Otherwise, the only two options left were either someone was still alive within the storm, or the game was bugged somehow. If the second option defied common sense, then the SG having a bug was beyond absurdity. The SG never had a bug or an issue happening in a game throughout the million years of its existence. The Queen made sure everything was running smoothly both in the UVR and the SG. Her processing power was no joke, as it was only below the Empress of the Metal Race herself. The only things which bypassed the Queen's supervision were the loopholes within the rules, but even those get patched instantly by her. Titus soon finished searching every corpse that was still inside the circle. His eyes, which were focused, suddenly dimmed a bit, as he found that all of those players were truly dead. He lay on the chair with an unfocused gaze, aiming at the sky. He didn't plan to continue his search, as by the time he finishes, Levi would be dead. I can't believe I would actually use it. Titus's shoulders slumped as he eyed his bracelet with a humiliated and desperate expression. Queen, please show me the players with signs of life. He gritted his teeth and requested the help of the Queen. If other MCs saw him do so, they would make sure to shame him in public. For a judge and MC to actually request the help of a third party in a game under his rule was the greatest humiliation in their career. But Titus understood that circumstances and time were stacked against him, so he chose the lesser evil. At least, he would keep his job. The Queen faithfully marked two small screens with a red X in the middle. Titus ignored Levi's screen and laid his eyes on the other. Impossible. No one can stay alive inside the firestorm for that long. So what the hell am I watching now? Stupefied and shocked, he abruptly stood up from his chair. This action caused his knee to collide with the desk. Yet, he didn't wince or flinch from the pain, as he was too engrossed watching a player lying within the storm at the very edge of the map, twitching from time to time. If it wasn't for those twitches, he honestly would have thought that the Queen was pulling his leg. Suddenly, he broke off from his daze and swiftly pinched the screen to enlarge it. He then dragged his finger to the left. Simultaneously, the screen displayed past events rapidly. This is it. He lifted his finger and clicked pause on the screen that was displaying the very beginning of the game, when everyone had just got randomly teleported. Titus decided to showcase the events that transpired on the large screen to calm the audience, who were booing and cursing with middle fingers and thumbs down at his inactivity. Who would blame them? Levi, their champion, was constantly screaming and begging, with a frightened expression, for the MC to get him out of the battleground. He was truly on the verge of insanity, as he kept eyeing the storm approaching him from all corners unhurried. From heaven to hell in a blink of an eye. This was Levi's current situation. Too bad no one could rescue him, as the game was not over yet. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the inconvenience, but if you want to understand why the game is still not over yet, you should watch this replay with me. The moment the large screen displayed solid wall in all of his glory, running like a madman towards the storm, the audience quietened down and paid close attention to him. Titus skipped the first 20 minutes of the game, as nothing much happened to Wally by then. He continued the replay only after the first alarm. That's when the fun truly began. Shocked and honestly creeped out, the MC and the audience watched with unblinking, bulging eyes the entire process of Wally getting burned to crisp, then recovering until he was solid again. This process kept repeating again and again and again. They neither got tired nor bored. They simply watched his never-ending cycle of torture. At this point, no one cared about Levi, who was burning within the storm with indignation and howling with a hoarse voice from agony. The poor lad didn't survive even 5 seconds before his body turned into ash, drifting in the air like his sand mimicry ability. This silence appreciation continued for over 2 hours, until the game automatic declaration resounded in the battleground. Congratulations to player number 345 for being the last survivor. By the laws given to me from SGA, I hereby declare you as the champion in this game. After hearing the monotonous voice of the Queen, the MC and the crowd woke up from their engrossment and traded glances between each other in silence and amazement. The only one who was still cheering was Felix, who didn't stop making his voice heard for the entire duration. After all, he just won 80 million South Carolina thanks to Wally. The least thing he could do was cheer him on. Before long, the spectators began to clap their hands, one by one, creating a gradual wave of applause that shook the entire arena to its core. Yet, that was not all. They stood in ovation and respect for Wally, who was lying on the ground unmoving, probably passed out. Wally, you machinist. Only you can survive such an experience. Wally, please wake up. FC came me sideways. I never thought I would cry during a game. Wally, Wally, Wally. Excited and filled with fervor, the spectators used their loudest voices to chant Wally's name, hoping that he might wake up and share this glorious moment with them. Alas, Wally was lying like a log, unresponsive to anything. If it wasn't for his chest moving up and down in a shallow manner, they would have assumed that he died as well. This is one of the greatest moments of my life. I never knew that an already heated 500-player battle royal could get any more thrilling. Titus held his mic an inch away from his mouth and said with spit flying everywhere, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are all in luck of being part of this historical moment that showcases the fortitude and determination that we human race take pride in." With eyes shining with devotion and ardent, he thrust his fist in the air and said, "We strive with the best of our abilities toward our goals and dreams. This is how we reached here and this how it is always going to be for the human race." Suddenly, he jumped from the commentary platform and nosedived downwards, planning to land near Wally. Smash! His landing sent a shock wave, followed by a cloud of dust. A moment after, he walked out of it and approached Wally step by step, while pointing his finger at him with passionate expression. "I hereby declare Solid Wall as the MVP of this year's SG Gold Ranked Games. This is my once-in-a-lifetime nomination, and I hope the title can help him etch his name in the Great Hall of Fame with other MVPs of the Supremacy Games." Just like it was planned as so, the moment he finished his declaration, he reached the side of Wally. Titus crouched next to him and proclaimed as loud as possible, "Give your loudest cheers for your champion." Felix didn't stick around to cheer with the rest. His voice already went hoarse. Plus, the main protagonist of the game was in a deep coma, unresponsive to their cheers, so there was no reason for him to remain. Now that's what a true MVP title-worthy player looks like. He smiled as he left the teleportation circle swiftly. This was the reason why this game became a viral sensation throughout the entire UVR, even to the point where news of it was still being shown for more than 10 years. Felix watched the replay of this game in a compilation video online, showcasing the top 10 most unorthodox wins in a decade. From first glance, his eyes were moved by Wally's determination for his cause. He couldn't help but link his struggle in his life with Wally's. 20 whole years of constant bullying from everyone in the clan he was in, before he successfully broke through stage 3 of replacement. Only then did he earn a solid footing in the clan. Enough. Let's not visit those ruthless days. This is a new life and a new me. I won't chase for revenge on those who harmed me. His eyes suddenly turned frigid, scaring the shit out of the cab driver who was peeking at him from the mirror. "However, if I saw their faces in front of me, don't blame me for making you eat shit as well." 10 minutes later, he entered the gambling den, which was currently filled with people curses. After losing their fortunes in the 500-player BR, no one expected such a twist to happen. While Solid Wall had 1 in 10 ratings, he was still not favored as Levi, Joshua, and more famous players who had 1 in 3 or 1 in 1.5 ratings. Felix ignored those gamblers and went straight to the counter. He placed his bracelet in the scanning device. Whoosh! 80,400,500 South Carolina has been successfully transferred to your bank account. Felix read the notification on his bracelet screen and left the den. His face didn't show a single hint of excitement. He was not a retard to do so near those angry mobs, which were merely looking for someone to vent their anger on. Now I have the capital. It is time for some shopping spree. Immediately after he stepped outside the den, a wide grin replaced his indifferent expression. It's time to buy a Bloodline. Chapter 46 Looby Bloodline Shop. Inside the cab that was heading towards the Bloodline market, Felix rested his hand under his chin as he stared at the view outside absent-mindedly. He was thinking of the best way possible to spend his newly obtained capital. He first decided that 10 million South Carolina would be used as capital for future bets. Meanwhile, the remaining 70 million would be spent on the Tier 4 Bloodline, hopefully an epic ranked one. As for the leftover coins, he planned to use them as payment for the resources he pre-purchased yesterday. 7 minutes later, he entered the public Bloodline market that was packed with rowdy people just like ever. Felix kept walking step by step while browsing the stalls and shops, but he never bought a thing. He just marked the items which pleased him and left them be. He couldn't afford to waste even a single coin from his Bloodline capital. 70 million might sound a lot, but Felix knew that it wasn't enough to even buy him a rare Tier 5 Bloodline. Don't even mention Tier 6 and 7. However, he was satisfied with Tier 4 for now. At least, his abilities would be much stronger than his peers in the same realm. After half an hour of constant browsing, Felix reached a tight, well-lighted alley. He had been walking before towards this specific alley. His browsing and marking were merely a side activity he did on the way. Hopefully, that greedy bastard is still open at this time. Irked, Felix spat on the floor and entered the alley. The image of the shop owner he was on his way to visit ruined his day instantly. Alas, he could only suck it up and tread through the maze-like alleys. After a while, he stopped in front of a clean-looking brick wall with frowned eyebrows. Seconds passed by and Felix just stood frozen in front of it. Fuck me. Just do it and get it over with. His frowned eyebrows eased up a bit. He let out a long, despairing sigh and without warning, he head-butted the brick wall 3 times and called out loud while gritting his teeth. Looby, the most handsome male in the universe, is not a greedy person. I came to buy and not to insult. Felix backed away from the wall and massaged his red forehead that had throbbing veins. Well, anyone would be angered if had to say such embarrassing hidden code to access the shop. A few moments later, the brick wall vibrated, like it was being assaulted by an earthquake. This caused fissures to course through it, drawing an image of a goblin head. Suddenly, the eyes of the goblin materialized and gazed at Felix with a dreadful look. Felix rolled his eyes at this sight and ignored that garbage attempt of scaring him. Kid, who sent you here? I only deal with regulars, and for you to know the secret method to enter my shop, you either must have received a referral or a spy sent by one of my rivals. So out with it. Why you are here? A frightful husky voice echoed 3 times in the tight alley. Felix, unbothered by it, extended his middle finger towards the image and said, "Greedy dog, are you still not opening up after I said that embarrassing passcode?" He threatened. "If you don't let me enter in 3 seconds, I will make sure to tell all your rivals the passcode." He smirked. "Good luck calling your regulars to tell them that you upgraded your shameful code to a better version of it. I bet they would love it." Cough. "Handsome mister. No need to be so mean. Come, I was just playing with you. Threats are unnecessary." The horrifying husky voice immediately changed into a pleasing fawning one. Felix sneered and dashed straight into the brick wall, unworried about getting harmed. The instant he did so, the promised sound of the collision did not occur, but only water ripples were left on the surface of the wall. Seconds later, it got hardened back to its original state. The fissures withdrew like snakes entering their holes, leaving the brick wall with a brand new outlook. Nostalgic, Felix nodded his head in appreciation at the massive interior of the shop that was packed with rows upon rows of shelves, each with plenty of unique items. Yet, the majority of them were bottles filled with different liquids. Some of those bottles were small, while some were as big as a 5-liter water bottle. Felix couldn't help but chuckle after seeing small horned elves not reaching even his knees, running back and forth in the empty shop like they were extremely busy. "What are you laughing at, kid? You never saw a successful business before." A short blue-skinned goblin with long dropped ears, big wide nose, and toothless narrow mouth stood in front of Felix and inspected him with interest using his left eye, as his right one was hollow inside. Felix crouched down until he was face to face with the blue-skinned goblin and scoffed in his face. "Greedy Looby, how dare you have the face to call this desolate shop successful? It seems like your brazen prices were about to force you to shut down." Unbothered by his mocking tone, Looby shrugged his shoulders with his hands spread wide and smiled politely. "Dear unknown guest, I did not invite you here to buy from me. It was you who knocked on my doorstep without even a referral letter." He extended his thin blue finger and added, "Plus you came to purchase my items knowingly they are overpriced. Mind telling me why is that? Or should I tell you myself?" Felix's eyelids couldn't help but twitch at this bastard counterattack, but he was not planning to brood over this matter forever. The only reason he mocked Looby was to vent some of his anger at being required to use that humiliating passcode. "All right, Looby, enough humble bragging, and remove that fake polite smile." Felix went straight to business. "I came here to buy an epic tier 4 poison bloodline. Go bring me all the stock you have, and also bring rare ranks as well." Looby's gentleman manners immediately were thrown in the sewers as he licked his lips like a vampire, ready to devour all of Felix's hard-earned coins. He didn't have Greedy Looby as a nickname for no reason. Felix's shoulders couldn't help but tense at this sight. He knew that he needs to bring his A-game during the negotiation. Otherwise, he would leave the shop butt naked, without a single dim in his account. "Give me 5 minutes and all my stock will be in front of you." Looby rubbed his hands together and added while eyeing the shelves, "Meanwhile, you can browse my bloodline item collection. You might find something that pleases you." Without waiting for Felix's response, he swiftly bolted towards the back of the shop, while calling for the little cute deer elves to follow him. Felix didn't need Looby's reminder, as he was planning to examine those items in the first place. He walked near the shelves while examining the items one by one. He kept commentating on the ones he found interesting. Oh ho! A Greykeeper bear claw that can be merged with an arm and used to increase the power of claw abilities. Not bad. He nodded as he held a sharp-looking gray claw. Works best if the bloodline integrated with was the keeper bear itself. Whoa, that greedy dog actually got hold of this. What a lucky bastard. If he sold it to a desperate person, he might rip him off with double to triple the price. Felix exclaimed as he appraised with wide eyes a unique-looking penis that was constantly changing its size and shape based on the thoughts of the holder. One can easily infer how well received this item would be for men. 3 minutes later, Looby came back holding 4 bloodline bottles, 2 in each hand, while his minions each held 1 bottle. Dear customer, my entire poison stock is here. Looby put the bottles on a desk and said with a solemn tone, please take your time in your choice. I don't mind waiting. Just make sure that the bloodline you choose is perfect for your future path. Looby's warning was genuine, as every time a young lad paid a visit to his shop, he only leaves after buying the most expensive bloodline there was in the shop, not caring if the beast he picked had a good rapport with him. Their ignorance resulted in them having at least their strength lowered by 30%. The synergy between the bloodline and the host must never be disparaged, as each beast had abilities specifically made for a unique fighting style. Some beasts preferred using their body parts as their main source of power, while their element provided assistance, while some were the total opposite, as they relied heavily on their elemental abilities to fight their battles. Those beasts preferred keeping distance. Those young kids only realized this fact after the deed was already done. This led to only one result, and that was forcing them to hasten their integration to replace the bloodline, totally ignoring building a solid foundation. Felix knew all of this as well. Thus Looby's advice meant nothing to him, but he still appreciated his warning. Thanks for the advice, but don't worry. I already know what I am doing. He smiled and requested, now can you clear the room for me, so I can focus on my choice please? Got it. Looby clapped his hands twice and went upstairs, followed by his minions. Slam. Felix's focus was brought to the 10 bottles before him. After hearing the sound of the door gets closed, he held the first one and scanned it with his bracelet. Soon, all the details of it were shown as a hologram. Bloodline name: 100-legged poisonous tarantula. Tier: 4. Rank: rare. Passive abilities pool: paralyze, poison immunity, skin hardening, night vision, wall crawling, finger flexibility, etc. Active abilities pool: organic webbing, shot, penetrative fingers, sleep inducement bite, web cocoon seal, etc. History: the tarantula is a spider-type beast that uses poison element and silk element. Its current habitat is rainforests in rainy Kindrian planet that is near the edges of the Andromeda Galaxy. Felix shook his head and closed the hologram. He was never a spider-type lover. He preferred snakes and serpents beasts, just like in his previous life. He had a good rapport with them, and he wouldn't change the species just because he had a fresh start. It was always better to learn from experience than to try new things all over again, wasting a ton of time just to be edgy. So, he excluded every bottle that had a bloodline of a different species, leaving only bottles that had snakes and serpents bloodline on the table. As he read the details of each of those bloodlines, he kept shaking his head in disappointment over the current stock. Am I just unlucky to end up with this trashy stock? Or Looby lied, and did not bring his best. Confused and disappointed, Felix tapped his finger on the table as he eyed the last bottle. He truly began to believe that Looby brought him a shitty stock, because he was not a regular customer. Sigh, I hope the last bottle is at least somewhat good. Felix already stopped thinking about buying the best. At this point, he just wanted something that fits him. He was not one of those bloodliners who chase after the perfect bloodline. Unlike them, Felix understood clearly that chasing after the perfect bloodline was the same as chasing after the perfect girl to marry, something that was clearly an illusion. A ho-ho. However, the moment he saw the details of the last bottle, his crooked vision about the perfect bloodline couldn't help but adjust a little. Just like love at first sight, he knew this was the bloodline he would awake with. Chapter 47: Successfully Buying the Bloodline. Bloodline name: Heavy Giant Onomamba. Tier: 4. Rank: epic. Passive abilities pool: superhuman strength, mild poison resistance, infrared vision, skin shed, infection immunity, etc. Active abilities pool: venom spit, strangle, instant devour, tail lash, toxic miasma, dizziness swamp, absolute defense, etc. History. The Anomamba is a serpent-type beast that uses poison element. Its current habitat is the Death Valleys on the planet Venusus. No more information has been obtained. This was it. The best current bloodline to awaken with, since every better option was either too expensive for Felix, or not his type. As for the passive and active abilities pools, there were few low-tier abilities, such as Skin Shed and Venom Spit. But the majority was tier 4. So, it just depends on his luck to unlock them. Wholly satisfied, Felix put the bottle within the stock, and picked a random epic rank bottle. Then with an elated voice, he called out loud, "Looby comes here. I have made my choice." Slam. Looby smashed the door with his leg and bolted down the stairs with his little legs, not afraid of tripping. Meanwhile, the cute deer elves hugged the staircase metal bar and slid down rapidly. Thump thump. Their plump bodies were hurled into a cushion right before the stairs. They truly prepared everything to rush downstairs. "I am glad you fancied one of my bloodlines. Tell me which one is it so I can deliver it to you." Looby rubbed his hands with a wide grin, exposing his toothless mouth. "This one, the Red Mother Centipede, an epic rank beast. Tell me its price first. I know that you add at least 30% extra on the market price of the bloodline." Felix's hand tightened on the bottle with of desperation on his eyes. Yet, in the blink of an eye, those low-key hints were gone just like magic. "Out with it, how much?" He coughed. Looby with his experience did not miss such hints. But he said nothing about them, he just blinked at Felix with honest expression. "Well, even though I add 30% extra, you do know that it is fully justifiable, since my bottles always contain 75% or more bloodline essence of the beast." He gave a half shrug. "But if you bought from other shops with the market price, don't blame me when you find the bottle you bought only had 10% essence. At that moment you won't have tears to cry over." His eyes turned stern real quick as he advised him, "Trust me on this one. It is never a good option to gamble with your bloodline path. Just pay extra and secure a safe path." Felix couldn't help but nod in affirmation. He knew that everything Looby just said was completely true, as not everyone was able to extract 75% plus bloodline essence from a beast. The only ones who were able to handle such a remarkable feat were top-notch professional extractors, an occupation worthy of respect and admiration, as only the brightest and most intelligent humans could have a chance to work in that field. After all, the job relies on having a vast amount of knowledge about beasts' genes, habitat, family tree, and more of such deep detailed information. Because to extract bloodline essence that had the beast inherited power and abilities from its parents, one must first be able to locate and study them, then seize those genes and put them in a bottle. The more experience and talent an extractor had, the more percentage he would be able to extract. If it wasn't for those talented people, the beast blood would simply appear as liquid-like in every species. It was only due to them that the term bloodline emerged in the first place. However, just like in every career, job, and occupation, there were always amateurs and stupid sheep who had absolutely zero clues on what the fuck they were doing. Those amateurs were dominating this occupation with their massive numbers. They read a couple of studies here and there, do a little research and experiments for a couple of years, and then graduated with a degree in bloodline extraction. It would be all fine and dandy if it was just so. The real issue was their trash extraction percentage, not reaching even 20%. This meant that the bloodline would end up having 80% of its essence all wasted. The sad thing was that most hunters still hired them to do the deed on the beast they killed, since they couldn't afford to hire a professional extractor. What's even more fucked up was that even if they hired them and managed to obtain 80% essence of the beast, who would trust their words and buy it from them? When it was easy to fool the AP bracelet scanning feature, one just had to mix multiple essences in one bottle, and voila, a fresh 80% plus essence was ready to be served. As a scam, those bottles were as useless as a fart in a wind tunnel. No one could integrate with a mixed bloodline. That was just impossible. It was debated and tested before. After quite a lot of scams using this strategy, no one bothered to buy bottles, which claimed to have 75% plus essence, without validating the seller's reputation first. That was the reason why Looby added 30% on the price, because he guaranteed the bloodline that the shopper received was the real deal. He built this reputation over 50 years of hard work, and in this kind of business, reputation was everything. All right, stop beating around the bush, just state your price. Hopefully, It is within my budget. Felix gripped his fist tightly and put it in his pocket. Innocent and sincere. Looby enlarged pupil stared at Felix right in the eyes. And just like a puppy said, 100 million South Carolina in. Without even waiting for Looby to finish his sentence, Felix clutched his heart in anguish as he stumbled a step back. His glass heart was shattered at the exorbitant price. Looby, unbothered by Felix's act, scratched his cheek and added, "This is even with a 5% discount. Since you are shopping here for the first time, I'm really doing you a favor here, kid. I should have expected this, but still your prices are really heart-wrenching." Felix inhaled a deep breath and put the bottle back on the table, and said with a reluctant expression, "I apologize, but it seems that I am leaving empty-handed from your shop today." He shook his head. "My budget is really not enough to close the gap. I guess I am not fated for Mother Centipede." Helpless and dejected, he sighed and turned around, walking towards the brick wall. However, before he took 2 steps, Looby lunged at his knee and clung on it with a forced smile. Now, we can always figure something out that benefits both of us. You just have to tell me your budget and I will see what I can do about it. I slaved myself for a couple of years to collect 60 million South Carolina to buy a bloodline worthy enough to integrate with. Now that I found it, my budget failed me." Felix lowered his head with slumped shoulders and said, "So tell me, what can you do to fix this? And just know 60 million is everything I have. I can't add a single coin." Looby's heart instantly sank, as he knew that this deal was a lost cause. No matter what he said or did, it was impossible for him to reduce 40 million in one go. Even if he removed the extra 20 million that was meant to rip Felix off and leave only the original 80 million. It wouldn't be much to buy his bloodline. "Well, you are right. The gap is too large to close down. I can't do much about it." He pointed his finger at the bloodlines on the table and said with temptation, "But there are still other bloodlines you can buy with 60 million. Just pick another one, and I will give you a great deal." "But I don't want another one." I felt a connection to only Mother Centipede, and nothing else moved me. Felix mercilessly hurled Looby towards the desk, like he was getting rid of his slipper, and continued walking forward. "Just forget it. It's better if I went to Sililan's shop. I might find my fateful bloodline there." Crash! Looby's head collided with the corner of the desk harshly. Yet, he felt nothing but rage and humiliation after hearing Felix mention that Sililan had better stock than him. "Close the store. This little bastard is not leaving until he buys a bloodline," he roared with blue blood running down his temple. Befuddled and amused, Felix watched 3 little deer elves blocking his way with 2 hooves extended forward, while the rest were closing down the gate. "What's the meaning of this, Looby? Are you trying to force me to buy from your stock or what?" He crossed his arms with displeased expression and added, "If streets got word of this, your reputation will be tarnished, and we all know business is doomed without it." He turned around and smiled warmly towards the little elves. "So let me leave in peace and I will act as nothing happened." "I don't care. I won't let you leave until you see the prices of those bloodlines." Stubborn, Looby stood up and dusted himself, unbothered about his bloody face. He merely gave Felix a defiant look. "Trust me, you will definitely be pleased by how cheap they are." Felix eyed the bloodlines on the table, then Looby's stubborn expression. He sighed and approached him again. "All right. If your prices are cheap enough not to put a dent on my budget, I will consider getting a bloodline here." He tapped his finger on the table and rushed him. "Hurry up and show me." Without delaying for even a second, Looby brought a rare rank bottle to his face and said, "This one cost merely 35 million South Carolina. Quite cheap considering that I usually sell it for 40 million. Pass. This is for 50 million. Pass. This one is 59 million. Pass." After getting 8 bottles disregarded by Felix, Looby started to lose hope of catching his attention. "This one is 57 million epic rank bloodline. Its original price is actually 65 million. This is as cheap as it can get." He rubbed his eyebrows and presented the Onomamba bloodline that Felix desired. Curious, Felix raised an eyebrow and took the bottle from Looby's hands. "Give me a moment. I want to see its details." He coughed and explained, "Previously, I ignored the rest of the bloodlines after I found the Mother Centipede. Believe me, this is one of the good bloodlines within the epic ranks. It was extremely hard to catch due to its defense and overwhelming strength." He sighed. "A lot of my hunters have been devoured by it." Yay, whatever." Felix waved his hand and shooed him away. "Go to the corner and let me read in peace. Your overselling won't move me." Looby immediately shut his mouth and gazed at Felix's expression, turned from intrigue to boredom, as he read the details of the bloodline. Just as his mind was started to get filled with despairing thoughts, he heard Felix's disinterested voice. Whatever, I might take this if you lower the price to 55 million. He shook his head. I will not waste my entire budget on a bloodline that doesn't fit my fighting style that much. So sell it with 55 million? Or I am heading to Sililan shop. This time you can't stop me. He laid his last offer with a firm expression. Looby, unbothered by his tone, nodded his head like a chicken and extended his hand for a handshake. It's a deal. We can sign a contract right now. Just never buy from Sililan shop, and I will give you a lifetime 5% discount in my shop. All right, I see no issue in that. Prepare the contract, please. I have other places to be. Felix shook his hand and waited patiently for Looby to prepare the contract. He didn't break out of his indifferent character for not even a moment. A few minutes later, Looby displayed a one-page holographic contract before Felix. There were not too many conditions on it. I see no issues with the terms and conditions, but change one little thing. Felix pointed his finger at the third clause and said, I will take care of delivery to my planet. Just give me the serial code of the bottle. I will decide when to receive it. No problem. Looby lightly touched Felix's bracelet and informed, I have sent it to you. You just need to call delivery company, and it will reach your doorstep undamaged. After seeing that everything was perfect, Felix signed the contract with a pleasing smile. He then stood up and bid farewell to Looby as he left through the brick wall. There was no reason to remain anymore. 55 million South Carolina was deducted from his bank account the moment he signed the contract. As for the bottle, he left it inside. What's important was the unique serial code of the product. Immediately after Felix left the shop, Looby did a little dance with excitement written all over his face. Go prepare a small party. Today we celebrate this victory over that cheating bitch. He ordered while biting his lips. If he had teeth he would have gritted them. You stole my heart, and then stomped on it mercilessly. You stole my job network, and then ruined my reputation, making me hide here like a rat. Now you want to steal my clients as well. He opened a bottle of wine that was handed to him by the elves, and chugged it down fully within few seconds. He wiped his mouth clean with his sleeves and sneered, in your fucking dream, Sililan. As long as I live, I will climb back to where I was, and I will destroy you. I swear on it. Just wait, you bitch. Chapter 48 Shopping Spree. Heh, to actually give me a 5% permanent discount on my first purchase. He truly hates his ex-wife. Amused and somewhat curious, Felix walked through the alleys with his hand rested on his chin. He had no idea what she did to make him turn into that state each time he heard her name. To the best of his knowledge, they had a massive enmity between them. Massive to the point a customer in his previous life had used the same strategy and worked just like a charm. Yet, the retard didn't keep it to himself, but spread it to others, making it public knowledge. After that, everyone tried to take advantage of Looby's hatred by taunting him that his ex-wife had better products and prices than his, to get the same results as Felix's. Unfortunately for them, Looby easily figured out that his secret was in the open, after tens of costumers mentioned his wife over and over again. Thus he blacklisted all of them, and anyone who said the name of that bitch in his shop. Now that I have the bloodline, as well as the potions, I can without a doubt awaken smoothly. He folded his hands and prayed for his bloodline to have 80% or 90% essence, so after he integrates all of it, only a few percentages would be left to cover. At that point, he could go buy the bloodline again, but this time cheaper from the public market to finish the 99%. After a while, he exited from the same alley he came from before, and submerged himself within the crowd with hands in his oversized dark hoodie. His direction was clear: the resources market. Ring ring? The doorbell echoed in a small shop 2 times as Felix pushed the door wide open. The shop owner, who was snoring thunderously in his slumber, woke up disoriented by the doorbell ringing. Felix trod forth and stood before the owner. He clapped his hand twice and said, Mr. Piggy, I am here to pay for the items I pre-purchased yesterday, and also to buy other things. Still muddled, Mr. Piggy rubbed his small eyes and snorted with his pig-like nose out of habit at Felix. Oh, it's you again. He scratched his messy bearded chin and read from a hologram. The full amount that we agreed upon was 1.1 million for 7 products. Here is your shopping cart. He enlarged the hologram and made it visible for Felix. 1 minor longevity potion allows a commoner user to obtain 300 extra years to live. Also, remarkable at cleaning his body from all diseases and injuries. The price, 850,000. South Carolina. Quantity, 1. 2. Rejuvenation potion. It can heal a commoner bloodliner back into a healthy state. without any hidden injuries. Works only for bloodliners under stage 2 of replacement. The price, 10,000. South Carolina. Quantity, 3. Double percentage potion. Allows the user to double the number of bloodlines percentages to integrate with. Pain waves remain the same as before the use of this potion. The price, 200,000 South Carolina. Quantity, 1. 4. Fuchsia's Eagle Wings Substance. Provides the user with the beast's wings for a limited duration of 15 minutes. The price, 20,000. South Carolina. Quantity, 1. 6. Double-headed viper poison gland. Can be used to upgrade the user poison resistance. Works only if the user has the passive. The price, 20,000. South Carolina. Quantity, 1. Those are all items that you pre-purchased yesterday. I hope we can finalize the deal now. Mr. Piggy brought all of Felix's products and spread them apart on the table. Satisfied, Felix nodded his head and extended his wrist forward. Mr. Piggy did the same and touched Felix's bracelet to complete the payment transfer, and also send all the serial numbers of the products. The contract was already signed yesterday. All right, Mr. Felix, it was a great pleasure dealing business with you. Now you can roam freely within my shop and wake me up if you liked anything. Exhausted from speaking this much, Mr. Piggy returned to his seat and laid on it in a relaxed manner, with his eyes dead closed. A few seconds later, his snores were resounding in the shop again. No wonder it was empty. Such a lazy pig would rather kick customers out than to waste time answering their questions. Unbothered by the snores, Felix browsed the items on the shelves with a finger pressed on his lips. His eyes drifted from a potion to a substance, yet nothing grabbed his interest. Mr. Piggy informed him yesterday that new stock was going to be displayed today. That's why he even bothered to browse again. Oh, everlasting youth substance. This is the perfect gift for Auntie Layla. Delighted, he smiled pleasantly as he held a small bottle filled with pink dust. He knew that nothing would bring more joy to a woman than to keep her youthful looks until death. His Aunt and Layla deserved more than just this, based on their unconditional assistance during the island remodel. This was the least Felix could do to repay them. He then took 2 bottles with him and searched the shelves for more useful products. After reading the details of over 30 products, he only picked 4 of them and decided to call it a quit. Oi, Mr. Piggy, please wake up. I want to add those items to my cart. Felix kept poking Mr. Piggy cheeks as he called near his ears. With half-closed eyes, drool dripping down his chin, Mr. Piggy pointed his bracelet at the items and scanned them. 2 youth substance, 1 skin hardening potion, 1 invisibility potion. The total is 60,000 South Carolina. Felix paid him the amount and obtained their serial codes. He then bade farewell and left the shop satisfied by his shopping spree. All right, there is still 1 more shop I need to visit. Then I can call it a day for now, he thought while heading towards the lady boss shop. 1 hour later, Felix sat on the park bench while holding vanilla ice cream in one hand, while the other displayed a holographic list of his items' serial numbers. Should I use a human delivery company or go for the Wormhole Company Express? Although this question was repeating in Felix's mind constantly, he already knew his choice. The only reason he was brooding over this matter was due to his reluctance to pay the maddening shipment price of the Wormhole Express. But honestly, they justify it by their solid reputation of 100% delivery successful rate. Meanwhile, humans' delivery ships could get robbed by pirates. Felix wasn't worried about losing his items, as he had an insurance policy installed on them that guaranteed that his products would be given back free of charge. However, just like Earthlings' insurance companies, the procedures and paperwork would take an extremely long period before they get it done. A typical action by those companies to delay paying their bill as much as possible. Felix wasn't planning to entertain their bullshit at this critical period. He understood that his awakening must be done before the end of the first stage of the training camp. Otherwise, the elders would force him to use their trashy bloodline. Helpless and vexed, he took a large bite from the ice cream cone and closed the hologram. His decision was made. Even though he must pay at least 500,000 South Carolina for the shipment, his items would reach his doorstep in 7 days tops, undamaged. This gave him some peace of mind. After getting that over with, he lifted his head and observed the beautiful scene of multiple subhumans' families playing with their children in the park. A gentle smile couldn't help but sneak upon his mouth. I should probably buy a house and VR pod after I leave the training camp. He knew that for one to be able to stay permanently within the UVR, a VR pod and a house was a necessity. Felix didn't want to stay inside forever. like some weirdos. But staying for a couple of weeks to months was no issue to him, especially when he joins the Supremacy games. After all, some games might reach tens of hours in duration. Felix definitely didn't want his fate to be the same as the peeing guy. Amused, he guffawed out loud, unbothered by the strange looks he was receiving. How could he not after the memory of a viral game resurfaced in his mind, showcasing a player begging for the MC to pause the game for 2 minutes to take a piss in real life? Sadly, the SG was not a video game where one could click pause, so the poor player had to piss himself in bed and in-game under the humiliating jeers of the audience. However, this was not the reason it went viral, but due to the player managing to clutch the championship at the end. One could only imagine how his face was like during the process of receiving his trophy. From that moment on, not a single player decided to enter a game without a VR pod, and Felix had no thoughts of doing the opposite. Chapter 49 Asna Reappearance. Next morning 10 a.m., Felix was eating his breakfast together with Olivia in the cafeteria. He held a cup of orange juice with its straw on close to his mouth. Yet, he didn't take a sip as Olivia's way of eating cookies was distracting him. Who could blame him though? Olivia kept munching on them with her eyes closed, just like a squirrel. Little Oli, can you not munch on cookies like that? You are ruining the adult image that we worked hard to build. But I can't help it. They are too delicious. She sulked with some crumbles on her lips and cheeks as she gazed at the last cookie on her. Also, I will not change my personality. I love sweet food, and I will keep eating them like this. If anyone dares to treat me like a child or bully me, I will bite him. She bared her fangs at him. Helpless yet somewhat amused, Felix could only stare at her eat the last cookie with the same expression. Well, you do you, I guess. After Oli finished her breakfast, she asked Felix, today is Sunday, and we don't have any training to finish. Do you have any fun plans for today? She smiled with anticipation clearly written all over her face. I want to accompany you. With a finger pressed on his chin, Felix gazed absent-mindedly after hearing her question. He was pondering if he should head to the cinema in the UVR to entice that lazy bum into reopening the connection between them. After all, Felix was only waiting for the pain relief potions to arrive at the lady boss shop, so he could deliver everything home at once. Based on what she said, it would take a max 15 days. This meant Felix's awakening would happen before even a month. That's just around the corner. It was better to start preparing for their future plans now than do so at the moment of awakening. I will probably enter the UVR cinema. Do you want to come as well? Bewildered and excited, Olivia suddenly stood up with her hands on the table. Whoa, you can do that. She tilted her head slightly. I thought only the owner of the AP bracelet can enter the UVR. How can you take me in as well? Indeed, I can use the party feature in the bracelet to take as many as 10, and this number is only limited because my bracelet generation is quite old. But there is 4 hours duration limit, and after exceeding it, one must start paying 500 South Carolina each hour. Nonchalant, Felix explained as he took quick sips in between. So cool. Felix nodded his head casually and continued eating. However, before he chewed, he sensed Olivia's eyes digging through his forehead. He lifted his head and saw her toying with a lock of hair with flushed cheeks. He chuckled and asked, do you want to bring anyone else? Olivia avoided having eye contact and nodded her head softly. I want to invite Sarah, as she always annoys me that her dream was to enter the UVR. Although Felix explained that he could take 10 people at once, she had a thin face to ask for another favor. In her mind, he already did more than enough by taking her in and paying for her. She wasn't stupid to not understand that cinema tickets were probably expensive for Felix, since he wasn't working in the UVR. And the family definitely didn't give him an allowance. If only she knew that Felix's leftover coins probably exceeded the family's entire capital, she wouldn't have those thoughts. Do as you wish, as long as the number does not exceed 10. I don't care who you invite. Felix cleaned his mouth with a handkerchief and added, this is a one-time offer, and won't repeat again. He then stood up and headed towards his room while saying, come to my room 2 hours from now. Thank you, Felix. You are the best. Exited and eager to deliver the news, Olivia left the table messy and bolted towards Sarah's room. Felix could only sigh and clear after her. Don't treat me as a child, my ass, he mumbled under his breath as he carried the trays to the cafeteria's counter. 1 hour and 45 minutes later, Felix sat on his bed with black lines on his forehead. You old hag, open up already, it is time to awaken. I am only waiting for you. Sadly, just like the last few tries, there was no response. Felix used everything from enticing to lying and cursing, yet nothing managed to move her and re-establish the connection. Livid, he threw the pillow at his TV screen. He truly couldn't handle her bullshit anymore. He never saw such an unreliable and irresponsible partner before. Why can't she act like an elder or mentor and show me the way as I read online? How can I be this unlucky to end up with this lazy pig who only wants to watch movies and series? He really began to feel that she got too comfortable in his consciousness and lost her motivation to regain her freedom. After a while, he stopped bothering himself with those gentle methods. For someone like Asna, the only thing that worked best was threats and sticks. His expression turned nasty and though. Let's see if you will continue to ignore me after I drink memory erasing potion. Felix was ready to pull all stops and drink that potion to erase his memories of movies and series. At that point, Asna wouldn't be able to enjoy her lazy stay in his consciousness and be active in helping him plan ahead. After all, she said it herself that more information was needed for her to see how to improve the cheats she gave him. But how the hell was she supposed to get it when her attention was elsewhere? Suddenly an irritated voice was heard in his mind. Bastard, can't you take a hint and leave me alone to watch in peace? She yawned. I already reached episode 200 of the Masked Lady drama series. I was about to talk to you after I finished the last 10 episodes. Felix raised his eyebrows in surprise at her sudden entrance. He didn't think that his threat was going to show a positive result this fast. You went offline for over 6 months, and you only watched 200 ep of that amazing series. He smirked. I finished them in 2 months. You really disappointed me. You dare look down on me while using 2 months to watch that series. You know nothing, little bastard. She puffed her chest out and said, I used 6 months to watch all the movies and series on your memories. The Masked Lady was the last one, she explained with a hint of dread. That's why I was planning to head out, since there will be nothing fun to do here anymore after I finish it. Felix didn't notice her voice cracking at her mentioning the last part. His mind short-circuited the moment she mentioned spending 6 months to finish his colossal liberty of movies and series that took him years upon years of lazing around to gather in his previous life. Yet, such an unfathomable amount was finished in 6 months. What kind of sick joke was this? Horrified, a sudden idea sneaked upon him and took root in his mind. Unless she did not sleep the past 6 months, and only watched continuously movie after movie and episode after episode, how can someone be able to do that? Neats around the world will kowtow in worship if they heard of her achievement. Furious at him calling her neat, Asna tried to throw the remote control at the TV like usual, but her hands refused to obey. Her mental energy was drained to the bottom of the barrel, and her sunken face with dark panda eyes only made it appear as such. Throwing the controller or not, she still raged at him, unbothered about her new ugly look. Bastard. Are you complimenting me, or insulting me by calling me a neat? She explained with a huff. Never associate me those lazy bastards. I only watched movies and series because I was sealed for 20 million years without any entertainment in my life. So I had to close the gap. Now leave me alone to finish those last remaining episodes in peace. I will call you later. She shooed him away with a hand wave and pressed on the play button. Felix hastily informed her before she cut off the connection. Tomorrow I need you in your best form and shape. We will try a quick experiment with a poison stone to see if I can absorb the element without a beast's bloodline. He gave a half shrug. Maybe it will work since you are merged with me. Whatever, talk later. Asna quickly cut off the connection to focus on the drama. Well, at least she got my message. He scoffed on her TV addiction and lay on the bed with his arms crossed behind his head. She dares says she is not a neat. Knock knock. Before he even found a comfortable position, a sudden door knocks resounded in the room. Felix glanced at his bracelet. They came just in time. Without wanting to keep them waiting, he walked toward the door and opened it slowly with a gentle smile. Yet, his smile stiffened immediately after opening the door wide open. He gawked at 10 of his female cousins, each wearing a different outfit that highlighted her greatest asset. Some wore a short skirt with black stockings on, while some had tight blue jeans on with a t-shirt. The only thing that remained identical was their beauty. Just like Felix, they also inherited good looks from their parents. Exasperated, he closed his eyes and rubbed his eyelids. He just remembered that Sarah had the biggest mouth in the family. Her gossipy personality was truly one of a kind. He knew that he made a big mistake by giving them a whole 2 hours before they enter, as it was enough for Sarah to spread the information and for Olivia's good personality to give in to her cousin's request and bring them to him. He figured as much by looking at Olivia, who was peeking at him with one eye behind Sarah. First, I will place some ground rules. so we won't have issues later. Felix decided to fold before his cousins even said anything. He wasn't a retard to disappoint those ladies' hopeful looks. God knows how would they treat him after. He extended 3 fingers with an indifferent expression. The first rule is, this is a one-time thing. Don't expect that I will keep taking you in the UVR each day. I neither have time nor energy, he warned. Secondly, when we enter, follow me everywhere I go, since you can get kidnapped inside and get abused those 2 hours until you get kicked out. He turned around and walked inside, while saying the last rule with a beseeching tone. Last, please don't point and gawk at anything you see. We don't want to be tagged as country pumpkins. Understood. The young ladies just kept nodding their heads like chicken. Heck, even if he asked them to get naked to activate the party feature, they wouldn't hesitate. At this point, the only thing in their eyes was Felix's AP bracelet. Felix cringed at those looks, as he knew that today wasn't going to be a pleasant experience in the UVR with them. Whatever, we will be wearing a disguise. Even if we get embarrassed, no one will know it is us. Please enter and close the door behind you. Elated and eager, his cousins rushed inside with their hands raised above their heads. Their loud cheers didn't alert anyone, as the rooms were soundproof. The last one to enter was Olivia. She sneaked inside and hid behind Sarah like a shadow. She truly wanted to avoid Felix at all costs. After all, she brought a massive headache to his doorstep when he simply tried to bring her out to hang. I hope he doesn't punish me for it. Worried, she peeked at Felix, who was rubbing his temples with closed eyes, as his brain was being assaulted by their never-ending loud chatter. Chapter 50. A wasted effort. Felix clapped his hands twice to quieten them down, as well as attract their attention to him. I want all of you to find a place and lay down properly, he explained. You are going to spend about 4 hours inside the UVR, so choose a comfortable position, lest your muscles ache when you return. Obedient, they listened to his advice and lay down either on the ground or the couch. Not one of them chose the bed, as it was only proper to act like a guest, and not as a snobbish girl, wanting only the best. Shortly after, all the girls were in a good comfortable position. Those on the ground had pillows and bed sheets underneath them, so it wasn't actually that bad. Satisfied by their behavior, Felix nodded his head, as his eyes were drifting from one cousin to another. Suddenly, his eyes landed on 2 exposed little feet under his bed. If it wasn't for the toes flinching from time to time, anyone would have assumed that a dead body was lying there. Without a second thought, he knew whose feet were those. But he ignored that hamster, and began explaining how the bracelet party feature works. I will visit each of you and touch your forehead with my bracelet. He tapped a few times on his bracelet and continued after bringing out a hologram in front of them. You just say this sentence. He pointed at the hologram that displayed a short sentence that said, I willingly chose to enter the UVR, using Felix's AP bracelet, and I accept all the terms and conditions of being a party member. The moment you finish, call in your mind Queen AI, and you will enter my UVR room directly. He smiled. After you enter, don't panic or anything, as I will follow you in soon. Simple, right? Yes, Felix. Can we start? I can't wait any longer. Eager and nervous, Sarah breathed ruggedly as she eyed his bracelet. Sarah, can you not say that while breathing in that way? If anyone heard you without knowing what's going on, will definitely misunderstand you. She is right. Get hold of yourself. Sarah, you are shaming us with you in front of Felix. A tall ginger flower poked Sarah's cheeks with a playful smile. Sarah slapped her finger away and kept eyeing Felix's bracelet with the same look, unbothered about their teasing. Brother Felix, don't listen to their rubbish. They are just wasting time. She pointed her finger at her face and asked with a cute smile, can you start with me? I already memorized what I need to say. Felix nodded his head and approached her. He also wanted to get this over with. After reaching her side, he crouched next to her and touched his bracelet with her forehead. Sarah did exactly as he instructed them before without a single mistake. Immediately after she called Queen AI, her eyes got closed shut as she lost consciousness. Whoa! Surprised by how efficient and quick the process was, the girls exclaimed with hands on their cheeks. Just as Felix wanted to instruct them to lay down, they circled him and kept chirping little birds. Me next. No me. Pick me, Felix. Vexed at their chatter and hands touching him here and there, Felix raised his head and stared at the ceiling deep in thought. What did I get myself into? After waiting a while, a clear order was still not established. Every cousin was more unforgiving than the other. Felix was the one who felt burnt of their terrifying bickering, as he was in the center of it. Enough, he shouted as he rubbed his temples. It was really a stupid mistake letting them handle it without his interference. I will count to 3. If I found any one of you not in her position, don't blame me for leaving you last. He crossed his arms above his chest and began counting. The girls whined at his stern treatment, but they still didn't dare to disobey. Within seconds, all of them were lying on their position with burning anticipation in their torch-like eyes. Satisfied at their obedience, he smiled and touched their foreheads one by one gently. The girls repeated the same sentence and lost consciousness. The entire scene appeared just like a cult ritual. One could only wonder what the parents of those girls would say if they saw their daughters lying defenseless like this, in front of Felix. Before long, Felix sent them all in succession. He dusted his hands with a pleased expression and went to the bed, planning to enter after them. However, his eyelids couldn't help but twitch at the sight of those 2 feet still there unmoving. He totally forgot about that troublemaker. Are you still not coming out, Oli? He kicked the left side rails of the bed lightly, trying to scare her. Thud. Ouch. The yelp he was expecting was replaced by a groan as Olivia's head collided with the bottom rail of the bed. Are you all right? Aggrieved, Olivia rubbed her red forehead and replied with watery eyes. I think my forehead cracked in half. I can feel blood gushing outside. Felix chuckled at her attempt to make him feel bad, so he wouldn't yell at her for bringing him trouble. However, the girls were waiting for them, and it wasn't time for those word games. Thus, Felix grinned and grabbed her little feet that were outside the bed and dragged her out. Ah! Olivia cried in surprise as she clawed the carpet, trying to clutch into her dear life. Unfortunately, Felix didn't even give her the time to fight it out before he threw her into the bed. Get in position so I can start the process. Your sisters are waiting inside, Felix ordered with unquestionable voice. Olivia immediately hid under the bedsheet and explained what led to this mess. I'm sorry, Sarah told Megan, and Megan told another one. It kept going this way until all of them begged me to enter the UVR as well. I couldn't say no to their request. Sore. Felix cut her mid-sentence, not waiting for her to finish her second apology. No need to feel sorry. I already told you that you are allowed to bring a maximum of 10 people. He sighed. I just didn't expect you to only bring your sisters. Now enough mopping and wasting time. Get into position and follow my instruction, he said while pulling the sheets away, exposing Olivia, who was curled up like a worm, trying to hide her existence. Olivia instantly fixed her position and lay properly on the bed. All right, you can start now. Felix did the same to her as others, and soon after, she passed out as well. Felix pushed her to the side to make some space and lay next to her. Log me in, queen, please. Inside the white room, 10 young ladies were conversing with suppressed tones as their eyes wandered around. Sarah kept touching every wall with a hint of fanatism in her eyes. It feels so real. She put her face on the cold surface of the floor and let out a comfortable sigh. This is the best day of my life. The rest totally ignored this weirdo and continued their chatter. It had already been 10 minutes since they entered, and Sarah never stopped those shameful acts. They only hoped she would get a grip and not do the same when Felix arrived. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. Felix's body reassembled from light particles in the center of the room, marking his successful teleportation. The reason he was late was due to him needing to rush into the teleportation company from the park, where he last logged out. The moment he appeared in the middle of the room, all the ladies quietened up and waited for him to speak. I will teleport you all to the capital city, Androxa. The first thing you need to do is to immediately leave the teleportation circle after you reach the city. He explained, each delayed second will cost me 200 South Carolina. This is important, don't forget it. Felix didn't want them to get cheated out of his money, since they were in his party. That meant he was responsible for their actions. Although 200 South Carolina was peanut in his eyes, he couldn't show so. Otherwise, the ladies would spread out rumors that he was rich within the UVR. It wouldn't matter if his cousins heard about it. But the elders were a different story. He understood clearly that showing his bank account was unquestionable if the elders asked him to. At that point, he could only create another empty bank account and show it to them. Felix wanted none of this nonsense to happen in the first place, so he was going to act as cheap as possible. The young ladies shared hidden eye contact with a confused expression. They clearly didn't understand a thing of what he said, but they still nodded their heads with knowing smiles. Felix understood their thoughts clearly, but he preferred it this way, as it meant less time for explaining. Queen AI, teleport us please. As you wish, Mr. Felix. Felix opened his eyes in the circle and immediately went to pull any cousin he saw outside of the circle. Even though they had random faces, Felix easily recognized them, as they had a green halo on top of their heads, visible to only him. A few moments later he looked at the troublemaker Olivia and Sarah, with his hands behind his back. What the hell? Why is it always you two? Whenever there is an issue, he scolded them with a fake angry tone. I clearly stated that you need to bounce out of the circle as fast as possible. So why the fuck were you both in it for an extra 6 seconds? One of you was frozen due to shock, and the other was touching everything in curiosity. Those 6 seconds cost me at least 2400 CS total. His voice wasn't loud, as he didn't want to attract attention to them this early. He was just acting like this to let them further realize that he was a poor pauper. Ashamed and apologetic, Sarah and Olivia lowered their heads while fiddling their fingers. The other sisters gloated at them getting scolded like little children. After seeing this positive response, Felix decided it was enough and patted their heads to comfort them. Alright, stop mopping. You only have 4 hours inside. He smiled. We will walk on foot so you guys can take a closer look at the culture of the UVR. He turned around and walked ahead of them. He waved his hand and said, follow me closely and don't point your finger at anyone, since you won't know if he is a normal commoner or a peak stage 6. The ladies formed 2 lines and followed him from behind, like ducklings following their mother hen. This strange scene piqued the interest of every passerby who saw it. Amused and bewildered, they kept pointing their fingers at Felix's group, while whispering with hushed tones. Yet, that was as far as they did. No one came to bother or harass them, simply because it wasn't their business. People in the UVR were exactly the same as New Yorkers in this characteristic. They recognized that for them to live longer in the city, minding their own business was a must-craft to master. After 35 minutes of continuous walking and answering all of his cousin's questions and inquiries, Felix's dispirited eyes instantly brightened up as he saw the cinema in front of him. Eager to send them inside to get rid of them, he bolted towards it, while calling for his ducklings to follow him. However, the long queue before the entrance shattered his uplifted spirit. He knew that paying to skip the line was out of the question. After all, how could he explain himself after paying 500 South Carolina for each cousin to pass the queue with him? Thus Felix could only hang his head low and continue getting tortured by their never-ending questions. Someone save me out of this hell. 45 minutes later, Felix entered the cinema that was designed just like a large tuna fish made of see-through glass. The entrance was actually its mouth. It just wasn't that clear before, due to the building's massive size. Let's go see the movie list for now. Hopefully, something might be worth our tickets. Felix gave each of them a hologram to read. He then sat on the lounge couch and read the list with a bored expression. It turned out he already saw most of the movies released during this month. As he was scrolling down the list, he felt someone tugging his shirt. Confused, he turned his head and saw Olivia and the rest were either looking at him with abashed expressions or avoiding having eye contact at all. The moment he saw their behavior, he knew something was not right. What's wrong with you? Did you not like those movies? However, the response he received managed to ruin his already fucked up mood even further, as he realized that he wasted his coins on bringing retards with him. We can't read the common universal language yet.